Welcome to the Final Frontiers radio show, where we spotlight inspiring missionary endeavors around the globe. Stay tuned to hear how you can personally get involved, helping the Lord's frontline soldiers effectively advance the gospel where it has never been preached before. Today we have an interview with Pastor Don Prosser telling about his experiences on visionary trips in Honduras with Final Frontiers. We also have a discussion with the founder of the Indian Council of Missions telling about his burden for national preachers in Tamil Nadu, India. And we'll have our very first question and answer session with Jon Nelms. Hello, this is Joshua Martin, and today in the studio I have Pastor Don Prosser with me. And brother, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You're on the board with Final Frontiers.
Yes.
And you have been to Honduras 9 sometimes, India twice, Ghana once. You've been doing the visionary trips for 10 years now, 9 different times that you've been there, but you've known Brother Nelms for 10 years. Can you tell us about the first time you ever went on one of those visionary trips, how that affected you?
Well, I went on the visionary trip just cold turkey. I went as just a beginner, a first-timer, and the impact that it made on my life, as a result, I've been the last 9 out of 10 years, because every time I go, it seems to be something new. There seems to be something fresh. Just to see their hunger and desire for the gospel is refreshing to me. It's almost as profitable to me as a revival service or a missions conference as a pastor and a leader in the church.
I've only been able to be on one of those trips before, but they took me there for about 2 weeks and let me film as much as possible, going to some of those places and some of those really poor communities, seeing the children there. So I'm sure that has really touched your heart over the years, seeing those kids.
Yeah, being so close to a third world country for our membership in our church has really brought a lot of desire back home to the United States of America to not only make a difference in our own culture and our own community, but to reach out to our neighboring nations such as Honduras. And we've been to Guatemala, we've been to Haiti, we've been to several other countries within just a few hours flying distance that are third world countries. Yeah. And it's the impact that is made on our membership is just invaluable. It's great.
So how long have you been a pastor?
I've been pastoring at Providence for 18 and a half years.
Okay, and so you've known Jon Nelms for 10 years, and you've been his pastor.
Just over 10 years, yes.
Just over 10 years,
yeah.
Okay. And you've traveled with him to India as well?
I've been to India twice with Brother Nelms, and each time that I've gone to India, I tell people that I've left my heart. The culture, the people, everything over there has just had a tremendous impact on my life.
So you've been a lot of places with him, getting to travel with him.
I have. I've seen firsthand Brother Nelms in action. I've seen the ministries that he's involved in, the ministries that Final Frontier is involved in, and the receptiveness that he receives, the graciousness by which he's received is refreshing. It has just tremendously impacted my life to be able to go, and I've encouraged other pastors to go, and I encourage any pastor or lay leader who's listening to consider going to one of these foreign countries with Brother Nelms. It just will really impact what you see. Sure. It'll impact you internally and spiritually.
And that's one of the great opportunities of the visionary trips is if a pastor wants to come, they want to see a church planted, literally, while they're there. That happens. If they want to come and they want to see how the feeding centers work, they want to see how the national preacher system works, how the accountability works, all of that, they've made Honduras to be a place like that can really showcase what we do here at Final Frontiers.
Yeah, Honduras is a country where we have gone into a village, and within the next week or two, a church has been planted. We've gone in and done evangelism work, and several villages ring out in my mind, one on the mountain just above Valle de Angeles. We went and evangelized in the streets. We had church in the street, and the next group that came in were able to establish a church in that area because of the work that had been done the week before. And so we feel like we had a big part in that planning of a church. So, yeah, you can literally go to one of these foreign countries, and even so close as Honduras, and while you're there, see a church started. True. Our church also has a sister church in Honduras, Providence Baptist Church in Suyapa, Honduras.
I love Suyapa.
We do, too. We love going there every trip that we go on. We love going to the school, the church. Now they have a feeding center there as well. And it's just remarkable to see what God is doing in an area so close to Contreras.
Yeah. I can remember doing the video for the Suyapa Church because I actually climbed the mountain up above and filmed the community down there. And I remember seeing the land. It was raining that day.
And I did the video for it, but I still have never gotten to go back and see what they built. And
Yes.
I would love to see the ending of that whole situation.
One of the years that we were there, it did rain, and it did not hinder the people from coming to church. It was just amazing. The devotion, the dedication that they had to get to the house of God, to hear the gospel. I mean, the rain was just beating upon the tin roof, and the people did. This was before we had a church plant there. We had church in a house before we built the church. And the people came, and it was remarkable just to see their devotion that they have to the Lord.
If you've been there 9 different times, which trip do you think was the most memorable? Do you have something that happened or a trip that's in itself that was
Probably the trip that we went out to see the Tulipan Indians.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that was. We had to cross a couple of rivers, which was intriguing enough. But once we got across the rivers and into the village, to see someone who's just so culturally the opposite of us, and to be able to minister to them and to see their response to the gospel. There isn't an English word that I can describe with the great intensity of the gratification that we all received. With their receptiveness of the gospel the first time we went into the village.
Wow.
And we were part of the group that were the first group, per se, not individuals, but the first group that was able to go into Tulipan, which is an indigenous Indian group there in Honduras, an unreached group of people.
And yeah, for our listeners, if you don't know about this, really the Tulipan are the last uncontacted group. And we've recently got more and more information. There's some beautiful stories that come out of that whole territory there of these people who are searching for Jesus Christ, really, because they said we knew our Creator, but we lost the knowledge. It's like we lost it. There were stories of the old men would tell stories of going up on the mountain and looking across, and someone would come and shout things to them and shout laws to them and things like this. And it's a very interesting history. It's all very dubious. We don't know much about it. But the people have hid in the mountains, a lot of them. And if they see anyone with white skin especially, or any foreigner, they'll run and hide. These are the kind of people that would burn their villages and move somewhere else if they see you. But in recent years, we've been able to get closer and closer to them. We've made friends with the chiefs that are there. Different groups in the United States will go in and they will try to do things, but they do it on the outskirts. And we've recently been given permission as Final Frontiers to be able to get in there and minister to every single village that's unreached. And right now we have a project. This is something very special in my heart. It's been that way for a couple of years now, to just get in there and reach every single family up in those mountains. And we've got it figured up about what it's going to cost. We're trying to figure with the little power pack devices, the nano devices, to be able to get it to every single family that's in that area. I'm excited about it. We're hoping to do it soon.
And this is an imperative outreach for everybody to get involved in, because they are so receptive of the gospel right now. And this is the time, the window, the opportunity for us to get in and get them the gospel is when they're receptive. I remember the first time we went in, the mothers were hiding their children behind them because we were some of the first white people that they'd ever seen in their lives. And their stories of white people were not all that impressive.
Right.
Maybe they thought we were there to steal their children or to do some damnable things to their children. Obviously, we were there to do just the opposite, and that was to share Christ with them. But the more they warmed up to us, the more the children were able to come out and play. And several of us got on the ground and allowed the children to come up and touch us and play with us. And we were down on their level to play with them as well. And it turned out to be a really interesting and fun time for a lot of the children. Still, some of the parents were hesitant to let their children come and play with us.
I know. I think it was just last year the chief actually died. The one that we knew, Sempriano, I think was his name.
Yes.
And I was really sad about that. But I remember I had seen pictures of him. I never got to meet him personally. You may have.
I met him. Yes.
That's losing him. Then everything was in turmoil, and we didn't know if we were going to be able to get into the people after that. But recently, we've been told we can. So we're excited to continue in that.
Yeah, and continue we must. We've got to continue, and any help that our listeners can give to us to get there and to get these gospel presentations into these homes is just invaluable. It's a great need.
Could you describe what does the poverty look like among the Tulipan when you're there?
Wow. To describe it, we treat our pets better than the living conditions of the majority of the people there in Honduras.
I know they say that the ladies there will make baskets and try to come up and sell to you.
Yeah.
That's the only way that they're trying to
and
make any
it's
living.
so hard to turn them down. They line up in long lines. We only have so much baggage to put our baskets in, and I bought as many as I could, and I hated it. Just tore my heart out to turn away those whom we could not buy from, because they were so orderly. They just got in a line. They weren't pushy. They weren't shovey. They just stood there waiting for us to come along to see whose basket we would buy. And they also sold necklaces. They handmade necklaces. And a lot of the ladies went away with gifts for Christmas and birthdays and anniversaries. I think we had to go back and get more finances after we left Tulipan, because everybody's heart was just shattered to the point of wanting to leave them with everything that we came with.
Well, if anybody is interested in visionary trips, this is something that Pastor Prosser here, he's doing this every single year. He takes members of his church there, they get them together, they raise them money, and then they do this every summer. And every summer we have weeks open that you can schedule to be able to go. So if anybody's interested in that, you can contact us at finalfrontiers.world. Or if you're interested in helping with the Tulipan Project, if you're interested in helping us get the gospel to them, we have preachers there right now ready, and we're going to be recording a salvation message that we're going to put on these PowerPack Nano devices. So if you're interested in helping us finance that, we are trying to do that project right now. You can come visit our website and get in contact with us.
From the creators of the Power Pack at AMT comes the new edition, the Power Pack Nano. Imagine a small device that can be activated by the touch of a button. A device preloaded not only with an audio Bible in a targeted language, but also with a gospel film and a personal invitation to receive Christ given in their own ethnic dialect, making God's Word available for all people, even those who cannot read. To be part of this historic opportunity, visit us at finalfrontiers.world.
Hi, this is Daniel Nelms. I'm here today with Dr. Thomas Mahar. He's from India, and he's with the Indian Council of Missions. Doctor, could you start by sharing your testimony with the listeners?
Yeah, I'm Thomas Mahar. I'm from India. I born in the pastor family. My father was a pastor. I born a Christian, but doesn't mean that born a Christian family that you are saved.
Sure.
But I gave my life to Christ when I was 14 years old in the missionary conference. Since that time, I have been following Jesus Christ. I have the assurance of salvation. I know that I have been saved. I believe that Jesus will cleanse all of my sins. If I die today, I will go to heaven. That's the assurance I have. That when I was attending the Bible conference and the missionary conference, I committed my life to Christ, and also at the end of the conference, I gave my life to the full-time missionary work for India. Then, since that time, I continued my studies. And when I was 18 years old, I went to the Bible college. We call it Missiological Training College, which is located in Yotmal in Maharashtra state in India. I studied there 4 years. I graduated in Bachelor of Missiology. Right after the graduation, I founded the mission. It's called the Indian Council of Missions. My ministry was started by faith with the focus of reaching unreached people with the gospel and training untrained pastors in God's Word. Actually, when I was studying third year in my Bible college, actually the devil indeed discouraged me very much, because the India is the second biggest populated country in the world next to China. Mm-hmm. The devil brought me the discouragement in my spirit, just like talking with me like a man. Thomas, what you are going to do? Because India is just like an ocean. So what are you going to do with that? You can't be able to make any impact here. Why you are wasting your time here? I'm almost convinced by the devil, I can say. Because of my studies, I want to go back. Then I was planning to go back and do some business and can be a good believer in the church. The next day morning, I woke up early morning, 3 o'clock, I was walking and praying. And some distance I was walking and I forgot myself. I can say I became unconscious. But I was walking on the road inside the campus. I was just praying, I forgot. Literally God spoke unto me, gave me this new strategy. Thomas, train thousands, you can reach millions.
Amen.
The word came unto me. Then I came to a conscious. Then I was looking around, I was walking early in the morning, 3 o'clock. Then my heart filled with joy. Then I found the way. I found the result. Now I was challenged. That day I challenged the devil. Now I can do many things for God. But I'm not a Billy Graham. I can able to preach hundreds or thousands. But I can able to train hundreds.
Sure.
When I can train hundreds, I can able to reach millions.
Could you tell us today a little bit about your ministry there in India?
Yeah. So my calling is training pastors. So at present we have been training the pastors in different states of India, and also we have a Bible college ministry. Through that we are training young people for the future church planting ministry and reach the unreached people group with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
That's phenomenal.
And also we have the program for the untrained pastors. It means that those who have not gone to the proper theological studies, those who are working in grassroots level and unreached areas, these pastors need to be trained in the God's word.
They do.
Yeah, therefore we invite them once in a, 5 different times in a year, and we teach the basic subject from the Bible, like basic Christian doctrine, evangelism, leadership, and soul winning, personal soul winning.
Sure.
Something like that. So this kind of training is really helpful for these pastors to plant the churches and do the evangelism and also soul winning more effectively.
Absolutely. And it's a major need in India today.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, this is the major need right now in India. Almost the mass evangelism opportunity almost closed now.
Absolutely.
So those days, maybe 7-8 years back, even preachers from America and other countries, they can come there. We can set up the crusade. They can preach the gospel to the multitude or even hundreds of people. But now, almost is closed. The door has been closed.
It's much more difficult.
Yeah, it's not possible, I can say that.
Sure.
Therefore, this kind of training, it means the training nationals.
Absolutely.
The pastors with the word of God, that is really great beneficial, and also it makes a great impact in the soul winning and also planting the churches.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've had how many students? Over 350 graduate from your college.
Yeah, since we started, the Bible College ministry started in the year 2002. Since that time, over 300 students have been trained, graduated in bachelor degree, and they have been doing successful ministry in different parts of India. They are the church planters, some of them Bible college teachers, and some of them evangelists, but most of them are pastors and planting the churches. And God has been so gracious in this ministry to train these young people through the Bible college ministry.
And do you have any needs right now? I understand that you're involved in a building project right now, and you have a need for that, don't you?
Yeah, we have, this is my strategy. Our soul winning team, the missionaries going 10 villages, every week 10 villages. Mm-hmm. The 10 villages, this missionary is going every day and preach the gospel.
Sure.
This is a requirement for one team, for 2 missionaries to preach the gospel every day, at least 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
So Monday through Friday, 5 days, so every day they preach the gospel, 5 people. It means that 25 people, they preach the gospel every day.
Absolutely.
Every week. So just think about that, 1 month.
Yeah.
So just about 100. So this is they can preach more than that, but this is a basic requirement.
Absolutely.
So through that, 10 villages, our mission reaching the gospel. So when we have converts, it's at least 150, 200, 300 like that. Mm-hmm. It means that they believe Jesus Christ. They accept Jesus as the Lord and Savior. Mm-hmm. Then we think of buying small piece of property in the village. It means that 10 village people can easily, where they can able to assemble.
Sure.
It is my desire and vision. Every 10 village in one church should be planted, and one church should be constructed.
Sure.
So every 10 village, so we build the church there. Mm-hmm. So therefore, when we build the church, these 10 village converts, they come to one place for the Bible study, prayer, and also Sunday worship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Amen.
You were having a church building project. How much money do you still need? I understand you've been able to raise some of the funds that you needed.
Yeah, this the building. We would, total budget about $33,000.
Uh-huh.
It means that 200 people can sit in the
Sure.
church, nearly. But so far, God has provided nearly $13,000. So we have come up with that.
Sure.
But still around we have $20,000. We are
Right.
just praying for that. We are expecting from God's people. If
Absolutely.
God provides that money, we could be able to build that church there.
And is this primary funds that you've raised there in India, or is that funds that you've received from over here in the States, or both?
Yeah, in India, it's not. It's very hard. As a missionary organization, we are there. So we are not doing the ministry among the urban people. So our ministry focused on the rural, more unreached area. Therefore, we do not have support. Actually, honestly,
Their
we are
tithes
relying-
and offerings won't be money, but maybe a coconut or some fruit.
Yeah, the people give, but it's not sufficient.
Sure, it's not enough.
Therefore, we are relying on the Western support in American churches and in individuals. If they support, it would be great help.
And if somebody wants to help out with that, how can they do that?
Maybe like your ministry, they can send the money straight to you. That you can able to transfer the money to us. Then we will be accountable to you. That's the way we can do that. Or they can send the money to Dr. David Wood Ministries. They can transfer the money to us.
And they want to make sure that they designate that to the Indian Council of Missions, so they would know that it's for you and for this project. So that would be very important. And if somebody has any questions for you, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can email me.
What was your email address?
Yes, founder@icmministry.org.
Sure, so that's founder@icmministry.org. Well, Doctor, it's been great having you today. If you want to learn more about his ministry, you can find his contact information on the show notes at our website at finalfrontiers.world.
Your inquiries and comments are important to us. If you have questions or perhaps subject matter you would like to have addressed on the show, please visit finalfrontiers.world.
I love history. Whenever I have an opportunity, I enjoy looking at old photographs and observing the fashions, technologies, and architecture of past generations. But most of all, I love to study their faces, old and young, the tender and the weather-beaten. They're all interesting to me. In their facial expressions and in their eyes, you can see some engulfed in the delight of their day and others immersed in grief that is overwhelming. Some have smiles, some tears. Some are as mundane as an old wrinkled cowboy leaning against a chuck wagon's wheel drinking a cup of coffee, and others as traumatic as a wartime massacre of mangled corpses and faces, forever frozen in death's grip of excruciating agony. But no matter the photo, there's always one question that invades my thoughts. I can't help but wonder if that person, now in eternity's domain, knew Jesus as their Savior. We know that it's too late to tell them about Jesus, to give a personal witness or send a missionary to their jungle hut, their prairie farm, or their city slum. Time has removed them from our reach. We will only see their faces again in heaven's courtroom. The truth is, all we can do is attempt to reach those alive in our day. That's not a small task, nor once completed would it be an insignificant one. Why? Because more than half the people who have ever lived on earth are alive today. What does that mean? It means that you and I have the opportunity to reach more than half of all the men, women, and children who have ever lived. Whatever failure our forefathers may have allowed, whatever lack of zeal may have hindered them, whatever greed for temporary riches may have distracted them, those who have passed hopelessly. How many were they? Only God knows, but we are told that of all the people who lived from AD 30 till today, 67% never heard the name of Christ. There are two things we must do in missions. First, we must specifically target those who have never heard His name or His gospel. And second, we must teach all believers in every church and in every country to do the same. I'm Jon Nelms. To learn more about missions, order a copy of my book, The Great Omission, on our website at finalfrontiers.world.
In third world countries, the only truth that many children know is hard work in the hot sun and an expectation of a life of disease, hunger, hardship, cursings, and abandonment. We can't change where they live, but we can change how they live. We can touch their lives and make a difference. With hundreds of millions lying on the brink of starvation, would you say with our Lord, Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not. If you would like to sponsor a child, visit us at finalfrontiers.world.
Welcome to the question and answer session with our founder, Jon Nelms. If you have any inquiries about missions or our ministries, please feel free to visit our website and click the radio symbol that says Heard Our Podcast. Here you can get in touch with us and write your questions in the comment box. We hope to hear from you soon.
Tell us, what is your most memorable missions trip?
There are a lot. I've been preparing notes for years, recalling stories and writing them down in a book I plan to write called I Remember. But obviously, to me, in my mind, the most memorable trip would be the first one I took, because that's what started it all. I went to Thailand in September 1986 and had the opportunity to go into a tribal village that didn't know the world was round, didn't know what an airplane was, didn't know what an ocean was, did not know that there were other people, and did not know that there were people of other colors. They said they didn't know that white people existed. To be able to share with them the gospel and to have the honor of being the first to take the gospel to them lit a fire in me that consumed me from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. It changed my life so much, even just the one trip into that village. That 2 weeks later, when I got home, my wife, after greeting me, pulled me aside and said, "Who are you? I don't even know you anymore." And that wasn't a bad thing. That was a good thing. My life was changed on that trip. That's when Final Frontier started. And that will forever be the pivotal point in my life. I wish I knew the day. All I know is it was mid-September 1986.
Are you drawn to any specific areas of the world? And if so, why?
Yes, I am. I think it was John Wesley that said, "The whole world is my parish." And I really relate to that concept. I don't equate myself to him. But everywhere I go, I seem to get a burden. I feel God's calling me to that country, that village, so forth. And I know that can't possibly be true. But I think that is indicative of a missionary spirit, wanting to take the gospel to everybody and exclude none. But there are some places I'm drawn to. Thailand, primarily what's called the Golden Triangle, where Thailand, Burma, and Laos come together. A lot of tribal groups living there. I love it. I think it's a very strategic place. I've spent a good number of years of my life in Honduras, and I love Honduras. And even though the topography, the geography, the food, the culture, and so forth is virtually identical with Nicaragua, right next door, still there's just something about Honduras that just rings my bell. I love that place. India is another one. I believe that there are strategic places on the earth that we need to concentrate on because of their value and the power they have in fulfilling the Great Commission. To me, India is one of those. I think if we can convert India, India will convert the rest of the world. In Southeast Asia, I believe Cambodia is the most strategic spot. It is the only Buddhist nation in the world that shows a high degree and ease of conversion from Buddhism to Christianity. All the others reject it. They're not opposed to it. They don't hate it. They just don't want Christianity. But if you can win Cambodia, and it is being won, then they understand that Buddhist culture, and they can take the gospel to those other Buddhist lands. Obviously, in West Africa, you have countries like Ghana that are strategic to be able to reach into other nations because of their, I don't want to use this word, but their seeming superiority historically over the other nations in that area. Most all of the slaves, probably 80-90% of all slaves that were brought out of Africa passed through Ghana on their way to the coast. And the king of Ghana was paid a tribute for each slave that was being sold. So Ghana has historically had a power position. Then in the east, you have places like Kenya. In the south, of course, South Africa. In Central America, for me, it's Honduras. From there, it's right in the middle of Central America, so we can easily reach other places. For South America, you have places like Brazil and Peru. So there are strategic places, and those are the ones that I'm most inclined to put my time and efforts into funding to evangelize them, and train their preachers to reach their own people.
You've been listening to the Final Frontiers radio show, funded by sponsors like you. Thank you so much for joining us. Through the funding of national and native preachers, we endeavor to effectively advance the gospel where it has never been preached before. If you want more information, visit www.finalfrontiers.world. That's finalfrontiers.world.